All right, chapter 4-4. What we're doing today, and this visual was very helpful for other students today, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this visual. There's a radius of 1. That's not a radius of 1. I want you to find the sine, cosine, and tangent values of that circle. I want you to find the sine, cosine values of that circle. They're all going to be different, but they're all proportional. Do we all understand that? Since they're proportional, the same concepts apply. What do you mean, Mrs. Yoder? Well, let's say to be the angle with the point xy on the terminal side of the unit circle. The terminal side on any angle that you have. Doesn't have to be on the unit circle, it can be on any circle. If that is true, then r is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared, which means that r squared, meaning the radius squared, is equal to x squared plus y squared. Here, does that look very similar? It looks 100% exactly the same as the diagram here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is x, b is y, c is r. A is x, b is y, c is r. We all understand that. Now, what this is saying is I can now find all 6 trig functions of any angle on the terminal side with a point. The sine of theta will be your r value, your y value divided by your r value, which means the cosecant is the reciprocal, which is going to be r over y. Cosine is going to be x over r, so the secant is the reciprocal, which is r over x. Tangent is y over x, so cotangent is x over y. Now, with that being said, I need your brain to grasp this right here. Your radius is a distance that you can measure. Would you agree? Can distance ever be negative? No, distance must always be positive, which means your r value is always positive. R value is always positive. Why is your R value positive again? Because it can be measured and measured distance. You measure a distance. Who in here has ever watched the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Okay, you know when they get in the convertible and they drive all around town? They're like, oh no, Jackson, look at the mileage. So then they put it up on blocks, put a brake on the gas, turn it in reverse, and then they try to get all the miles off. That's not how it works. What they saw was miles were going where? Up, because the wheels were still spinning and making revolutions, so therefore they could measure those distances, and that distance created a length. Yes? So even though they were going forwards or backwards, there was still a distance traveled, so therefore it added to the mileage on the vehicle. Same exact thing. That's why r, which is your radius, is a measurable distance and it has to be positive. Any questions over what I just said? Okay? X can be negative and y can be negative. And here's the other thing I need your brain to grasp. Yes, if I have a negative in the middle of the fraction, it can go to the top or it can go to the bottom. It can't go to both. But in these examples that I'm talking about today, the top and the bottom represent either x, y, or r. And what I need your brain to understand is if r is negative, you've done screwed up. It has to be positive. Do we all understand that? Okay, so this is what your homework is going to look like for problems 1 through 13, or 1 through 12. So this is like 1 through 12. So I'm going to give you a point, -2 and 7. And we're going to find all the 6 trig functions given the point on the terminal side. What does that mean? Well, if I were to graph this, here's the point -2 and here's the point 7. Bam! Do you see the angle? There's the angle. Okay? That angle is out there. It wants you to find the 6 trig functions. Now, what this implies is that this is x and this is y. Would you agree? So that means x is going to be -2, y is going to be +7, and you have to find r. Do we all understand what I just said? So let's find r. So r is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared. So that's going to be the square root of -2 in parentheses squared plus 7 squared. You must put the -2 in parentheses because you're squaring that negative as well. Yes? So that's going to give you the square root of 4 plus 49. So r is equal to the square root of 53. R cannot be negative, which is why we're only keeping the positive. Normally you would do plus or minus here, but I can't have it be negative, So I only have the positive. Do we all understand that? I cannot have the negative as this. So now that I know what R is, can I find the 6 trig function? Sure. The sine of theta is your y value over your r value. Well, what is y? And what is r? Do I like that? I absolutely do not like that. I need to rationalize that. So if I rationalize that, that's 7 square roots of 53 over 53. Do we all understand that, yes or no? If I know the sign, what immediately do I know? Well, the reciprocal of sine is going to be what trig function? Cosecant. So I'm going to take the non-rationalized, and I'm going to simply flip it. So that's the square root of 53 over 7. Do we all understand that? So then next one I'm going to find is going to be the cosine of theta. The cosine of theta is going to be x over r. X is -2 and r is the square root of 53. Do I like that? No, rationalize that. And that's -2 square roots of 53 over 53. So again, what is the reciprocal of cosine? Secant. I'm going to take the non-rationalized part of cosine, and I'm going to flip that to give you the square root of 53 over -2. Yes? The last 2 trig functions I need is going to be tangent. Tangent of theta is your y value over your x, which is simply going to be 7 over -2, which implies that your cotangent is going to be what? X over y, which is the reciprocal of -2 over 7. Do you understand how I found the 6 trig functions there, yes or no? Very easy, yes? Perfect. Now, the next one, the next set of instructions is problems 13 through 16. Now, it says to state the quadrant in which theta lies, and they give you some criteria. Now, if we're talking quadrants, I need your brain to go to quadrants. In quadrant 1, I have plus, plus. Quad 2 is minus, plus. Quad 3 is minus, minus. And quad 4 is plus, minus. What did I just put up there? I'm sorry? I put the quadrants x and y values. The x and y values are either positive or negative, depending upon the quadrant you're in. The x corresponds with cosine. The y corresponds with sine. Now, the next thing I need your brain to also put on there is going to be your tangent values. Tangent is your y over your x. So positive divided by positive is a positive. Positive divided by negative is a negative. Negative divided by negative is a positive. A negative divided by positive is a negative. Yes? So what I just put up there were your 3 trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. Now we're going to read the problem, because I haven't done that yet. The problem says the secant of theta is greater than 0. Did I memorize secant? No. What I did memorize is its inverse, which is the cosine of theta must be greater than 0. So if it's greater than 0, are you positive or are you negative? You are a positive value. All right, well, where is my cosine positive? What 2 quadrants is my cosine positive? 1 and cosine positive. Cosine is your x. So what other quadrant is cosine positive? 4. 4. So I'm in either quadrant 1 or I'm in quadrant 4. Do we all understand that? So now let's keep reading. The next part says that your cotangent is going to be less than 0. Is that positive or is that negative? That means it's going to be negative. All right, well, of the 2 quadrants that are highlighted, quadrant 1 and 4, which of those has a tangent or cotangent being negative? 4. Quadrant 4 is going to be negative. So therefore, I am in which quadrant? I'm in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is the only quadrant that will satisfy those 2 criteria. Do we all understand that? That is how you're going to do problems 13 through 16. Do we all understand that, yes or no? Okay, the next set of instructions for problems 17 through 24 say find the values of the 6 trigonometric functions of theta. It gives you some information. It tells you that the sine of theta is 3 over 5. and that theta is in quadrant 2. All right, well, what do we know about being in quadrant 2? If you are in quadrant 2, you are in the negative positive quadrant, which means your tangent is going to be negative. Do we all understand that? Your cosine is negative, your sine is positive, and your tangent is negative. Do we all understand that? Now, what is the definition of sine? Sine of theta is going to be your y value over your r value, which means that's 3 over 5. Would you agree? What can you conclude from that? I need to find x, y, and r. Y is 3, and r is going to be 5. How in the world do I find x? I'm going to use x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. So this is going to be x squared is equal to 5 squared minus 3 squared. So that's going to be 25 minus 9. So that's 16, and I have to take the square root. Well, whenever I take the square root of both sides, I'm going to get x is equal to plus or minus 4. Which of those is it going to be? Why is it minus 4? I have to choose only minus 4 because since I'm in quadrant 2, my x is negative, not positive. Do we all understand that? So now that I know that x is going to be negative 4, can I find all of the remaining 5 trig functions? Well, since I know what sine is, I immediately know the cosecant. It's be 5 over 3. That's a given. So now the cosine of theta is going to be your x over your r, which is going to be negative 4 over 5. Yes? Then that means I know my secant of theta, which is going to be the reciprocal of that, which is 5 over negative 4. My tangent of theta is your y over your x, which is going to be 3 over negative 4. To give me a cotangent of theta being the reciprocal of that, which is negative 4 over 3. Do we all understand how we did that and how whenever you did the plus or minus, you had to determine what quadrant you're in to determine if it was positive or negative? That is how you're going to do 17 through 24. Do we understand that, yes or no? Now I'm going to do another problem in this section, which is number 23. And number 23 says, hey, the cotangent is undefined. Whoa, what does it mean to be undefined? Zero's on the bottom. Well, that's super helpful because I know that cotangent is understood to be x over y, which means 0 has to be in the bottom. Would you agree with me on that? Okay? And it says, furthermore, that my angle pi over 2 is less than theta, which is less than 3 pi over 2. Well, here's pi over 2 and here's 3 pi over 2. Where quadrants do you think my angles can lie? When it says that theta is between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, what quadrants am I allowed to be in? I'm allowed to be in quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. Do we understand that? Well, what does that mean in quadrant 2 or quadrant 3? That means you're negative plus having a negative tangent or negative having a positive tangent. Do we all understand that? However, where is 0? If your y value is 0, where are you falling at? You're not in a quadrant. You're a quadrant angle, which means you lie on the axis. You have no height, which means I'm going to be over here at pi, which is the order pair -1, 0. Do we all understand that? Because my y value must be 0, which means I am not having any height at all to this. So I basically know what I'm doing is my 6 trig functions at the angle pi. Does everybody understand that? I'm basically doing my 6 trig functions at the angle pi. So that means now that the tangent of theta is going to be, I'm going to put a -1 up there. Why is my x -1? Because that's what pi is. It's -1. Do we all understand that? So my tangent is going to be 0 over -1, which is 0. So my sine of theta, what is my sine of this? What's my sine of pi? Yep. So then what can you tell me about the cosecant? The reciprocal of that is going to be negative 1 over 0, which is undefined. What is the cosine of theta? Well, theta is pi, so what's the cosine value? Negative 1. So then its reciprocal is secant, and what is the reciprocal of negative 1? Negative 1. Yes? That was a little tricky, but it makes sense after you realize where y has to be 0 is on the x-axis. Do we all understand that? Okay, the next set of instructions is going to be problems 25 through 28. And it says the terminal side of theta lies on the given line in the specified quadrant. Time out. Let's reread that one more time. The terminal side of theta lies on the given line. Line is mx plus b, isn't it? A line is mx plus b. And the specified quadrant. So they're giving me 2x minus 1, y is equal to 0. Can I solve that for y? And what is that equation? 2x equals y, which means my slope is going to be what? 2 over 1, up 2 to the right 1. And what is my y-intercept? 0, 0. And guys, if I come over here and I graph this thing and I start at 0, 0, and I go up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. All of my points are in what quadrant? It makes a line, but what quadrant does this thing want me to be in? It wants me to be in quadrant 3. So instead of going up 2 into the right 1, I'm going to go down 2 to the left 1, down 2 to the left 1, down 2 to the left 1, down 2 to the left 1. If I make my line, I only need to use quadrant 3. Quadrant 1 points are unnecessary and can be erased. Do we understand that? So basically what I have is this angle right here. Do we all see that angle? Now, if I finish the directions, it says find the values of the 6 trigonometric functions of theta by finding a point on the line. I need to find the 6 trig functions by using one of those points that I found in quadrant 3. So what would be the easiest point that I would utilize?
1, negative 4.
Look at that again.
Negative 1, negative 2. Sorry.
Negative 1, negative 2. So if I would use the point negative 1, negative 2, I can't use the point 0, 0 because 0, 0 is the origin. It's not in a quadrant. You all understand that? So we're going to utilize that point. So if we're utilizing the point negative 1, negative 2, I have to find what? I have to find r. Why do I have to find r? We only know x and y. I have to find r. So I have to find r by taking the square root of negative 1 squared plus negative 2 squared. So that's the square root of 1 plus 4, which is the square root of 5 is equal to r. And again, can it be negative? Why can r not be negative? Because it is a distance, and as such, you have to have it measurable. Okay? So now that I know what x and y are, and r, I need to find my 6 trig functions. So the sine of theta is going to be your y value over your r. So my y is negative 2, and this is the square root of 5. Do I like that? No, I have to rationalize that. Negative 2 square roots of 5 over 5. If I know sine, I automatically know its reciprocal, which is the cosecant. I'm going to take the reciprocal of the non-rationalized, so that's the square root of 5 over negative 2. Yes? Then I have to find the cosine of theta. That's x over r, so that's going to be negative 1 over the square roots of 5. Do I like that? Nope, so that's negative square roots of 5 over 5. So if I know the cosine, then I automatically know the secant. The secant is the reciprocal of the non-rationalized cosine value, so that's the square root of 5 over negative 1, which is just negative square roots of 5. Then I need to find the tangent. Tangent's y over x, so that's negative 2 over negative 1, which happens to be positive 2. And then the reciprocal of that is what we call cotangent, so that's going to be 1/2. Now, here's a check and balance system. Are my sine and cosine negative values? Yes. Are my secant and cosecants negative values? Yes. Are my tangent and cotangent now positive because a double negative creates a positive? Yes. Do we understand how to do 25 through 28? Any questions? Excellent. Now let's do the last part of tonight's homework assignment. The last part of tonight's homework assignment says to evaluate the trigonometric functions of the quadrant angle. What is the definition of a quadrant angle?
Not a quadrant.
It's not literally in any of the four quadrants. It actually is on the axis, either the x-axis or the y-axis. So the angles that you can choose from that are quadrant angles are going to be 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, or 2 pi. Those are the 5 equivalent angles that you can utilize in the Greek radian mode. So you all understand what I just said. Now, if you look at those problems of 29 through 36, secant, tan, cotangent, cosecant, secant, cosecant, cotangent, cosecant. Why did they not give you any sine or cosine? Because don't you already memorize the quadrant angles and the sine and cosine values to be 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
You already know them. So I don't want to test you over that. I want you to know, do they understand the reciprocals of them? So if I'm looking at secant of pi, well, I need to know where pi's at. Pi's right here. That's where to compare negative 1, 0. Would you agree? I didn't memorize secant, but I sure did memorize its reciprocal, which is the reciprocal of secant. Cosine. So the cosine of pi is equal to negative 1, which implies the cosecant of pi, or I should say the secant of pi is going to be negative 1 still. It's the reciprocal. Do you all understand that? Yes, that's all it's asking you to do, is to find one of the 5 trig functions. And that is how you are going to do problems 29 through 36. So tonight's homework is 2 through 36 even, and I am done. Please do your homework tonight. Plenty of time right now.